Yeah, well, see, we missed some of that story already.
Right. Now, this is the story of my great-granddad.
Yeah.
Is that going on there?
Yeah, it'll go on there.
He was an engineer on the railroad when our daddy was a little boy, and back in Kentucky. And when he would come through near where our granddad lived, he'd pick him up and take him in the cab with him part of the time. So our dad said that sometimes he would sit on a big fence post out there with his head down like he's crying, so Granddad would stop and pick him up. And this continued until the bridge across the Mississippi was finished and the trains could go across by a bridge instead of having to be transported by boat. And my dad's dad was working the boat, that his dad was working the railroad.
They kind of was together some of the time then.
Well, they weren't together, but they were.
Yeah, kind of crossing paths there.
I remember Pop saying sometimes he would ride on the boat with his dad, sometimes he'd ride in the train with his granddad. He had it made.
Yeah.
But whenever the boat come down the river and sounded its musical thing,
Yeah.
they would hear it. He said we lived 5 blocks from the river. And all the little Burton boys ran out and grabbed a gallon bucket and started gathering green beans. So as soon as the boat docked, there they were ready to go up the gangplank with their green beans for the cook.
They would, now, they was living in Kentucky at the time.
Yes, Columbus, Kentucky.
Columbus, Kentucky. Okay. Okay. I'll go ahead and read some more of this here that you got on here, okay? Oh, it says Levi Burton married Susan Lee. I think it was in Kentucky.
No, it was in Florida, down in Florida. They came up during the Civil War up the river.
In Florida.
And they set them on off their boat, and they're at Columbus, Kentucky.
But they got married in Florida?
I don't know where they got
okay.
married.
All right. Well, I thought that's what you were saying there, but then
they lived in Florida. They started up the river with their boats, and the opposition caught them and set them on the ground on Kentucky and took their boat.
Yeah. They had 5 kids, said, and of course our grandpa, Boyd Benjamin, and there was Lil and Tess and Edgar and Lorraine. Of course,
Lorraine is known as Pick. They call her Pick all the time.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember seeing any of them?
No, I don't.
Okay. You don't tell them which direction they went to.
We were out in the country and we didn't get to socialize much.
Well, they talk about the tombstone being in the cemetery out there. I remember seeing my great-grandparents. It says Boyd Benjamin Burton married Viola Virginia Lynch in Kentucky. Her name was Mayfield.
Not her name.
No, wait a minute. That was in her home was in Mayfield, Kentucky. I'll write that down somewhere too. I got another copy of this at home.
I didn't know Grandma's name was Viola Virginia.
Yeah.
I know it's Viola.
Let's see what it says there. Their children, short of that, was born in Columbus, Kentucky. Levi George, the second, named for his grandfather. Maneva, that's Nell. Benjamin, Edgar, and Cleo, and Virginia, and Boyd.
Mm-hmm.
Now, talking about Dad, he was born in Columbus, or
no, he was born in Poplar Bluff.
Okay,
the only one.
Okay.
From what they said, and my dad said he was 16 years old, and he was working someplace, and he was asleep upstairs. He come down for breakfast. I didn't put all this in there. When he come down for breakfast, Granddad was frying eggs and stuff at the stove, And he said, well, Lee, you ought to go upstairs and see your new baby brother. And he said, I was 16 years old and I didn't even suspect that my mother was expecting. He was just floored.
Now then, see, Grandpa died here in Poplar Bluff, but it says, I mean, no, I'm asking because I don't know.
But you're asking me, though.
But it says that he's buried in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's,
But he went up there and died up there.
yes.
But why did he go up there?
Uncle Ed was there.
Uncle Ed wanted him to come up there.
Oh, okay.
And Boyd, your dad, was up there, too.
Yeah,
And
in Kansas City at
and
the time.
Maxine, and he was all up there.
Yeah,
And they wanted Pop to sell out and come up there.
yeah.
But Pop didn't do it. He had the place. He'd taken his Army insurance, and they paid half of it, and paid it down on that place, and he was working to make payments to finish paying for the place, and he didn't want to give it up.
Well, if he had of, then we probably never would have came back to Poplar Bluff, huh?
Well, I don't know what you'd have done.
Yeah, yeah, because you guys stayed, then
Yeah.
we end up coming back.
Yeah, Grandpa and Uncle Boyd built that cabin on the ground next to us.
But you know what? Dad being the oldest, and Boyd being the baby, and him being 16 years old when he was born, he was like an uncle or something to him, really.
Yeah.
I mean, besides like being like a brother.
Yeah.
But whenever you come back, he was definitely kinfolks. He come to our house a lot. Uncle Boyd did. When he was single, and then after he married Maxine, she's lived in our district. And after he was single, and then whenever he got to working, after he come back from Kansas City, he was working at, what's that? Resnick tractor place.
Yeah.
Dad would go by there and see him on his way back and forth to work sometimes. They had a good relationship, Boyd and Pop.
Well, Marlene was telling me that she remembers that Sil Resnick would advertise on the radio, and they would use Dad's name because he was such a good mechanic. It would tell in that commercial about, you know, people ought to come on in because he was such a good mechanic. Do you remember anything like that?
No, but that's true. I mean, he was a good mechanic,
Yeah.
and Sil Resnick had a high respect for him, so it was true.
And Sil Resnick's son lives 2 doors from me at the Dover Courts.
He does.
Yeah. He's in a wheelchair.
Is Sil Resnick's son or brother?
Son. I asked him when I found his name was Resnick, I said, are you related to Sil Resnick? And he said, he's my dad, but he's gone now. He's dead now. And so I asked him, did he remember Boyd Burton? And he did. He remembered him. He's a younger man, and I imagine he's about Leroy's age.
Yeah. I was telling Emily there about this. See, I've been running this ancestry thing and digging up information about their history and all that. That I say we, that's what I told her to.
Sure.
The Burtons, they came over from England in 1615.
I didn't know that. I wasn't
And
here.
The name of the ship was Abigail.
Well,
And now I got a granddaughter named Abigail.
and there was about 12 on the list. So they got passenger lists for each one of them ships and all that. On the passenger list, there was it lists 12 Burtons.
well, I didn't know that. Never heard it.
Well, see, there was probably the one that we descended from was Richard Burton,
Oh,
but the other one was probably his brothers and sisters, brothers
kind of
and
like our
cousins,
family.
maybe.
There were 7 in our family, and some could descend from Ed or Ben or Lee or any of them like that.
Yeah.
But see, Pop had
But-
5 girls, and he always wanted a son. He had a son for one day, and he died. So the rest of them had boys.
You know, that's a strange thing. Like,
Well, I
in
told
our-
him after he was grown, and there was something said. I said, "Well, Dad, girls are the cream of the crop."
Well, like in our family, see, Robert being the oldest, he had all girls, and Wade being the youngest, he had all boys.
Sure enough.
Now I'm right in the middle, and I had all girls.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of them
Girls.
kind of split up.
Finish reading that.
Oh,
Please, please, I was in command here.
okay. Well, it says married. Okay. Your dad, Levi George II, married Emily Turner in Butler County near Poplar Bluff. What?
Elva Turner.
Elva.
Wasn't
Is that how you
Evelyn?
say that? Oh, did I say Evelyn?
Yeah.
I mean,
But her name wasn't Lee. She's
I'm
named
sorry.
after. She's named
I know.
after both.
I know that. I didn't even realize I'd said that.
Uh-huh.
In Missouri, on October the 14th in 1917, they had one son and 3 daughters who died in infancy. Is that meant to say that? 3
Yes.
daughters died too?
Twin girls, and
Is
a
that
little
right?
girl that was a year younger than me.
Wow. Died in infancy. They reared 5 daughters: Regina, Bravina, Eveline, Stella June, and Laureen. Genevieve?
Yes.
Laureen Genevieve?
Mhm.
Huh.
She's L.G. Burton the Fifth. She signed their names at school, and she wrote things. We found out she was signing her papers at school, L.G. Burton the Fifth, and she's a little girl.
Really?
Yeah.
She's doing that, huh? Levi and Elvie
Turner.
tombstone, in Woodlawn Cemetery. And it shows the date and all that. Having reared no son, this was where the name of Burton increases at this limb of the tree in the Burton history as a surname. Evelie Burton, daughter, married Willis Howard Fuller in 48. You say 40? Was that 48 or 47?
47.
47.
Yeah.
Well, she got 40. She was thinking 48 at the time, I guess. Anyway, their older son, Howard Levi Fuller, and second son, Dwayne Burton Fuller. They had 2 daughters, Catherine and Virginia Laureen. Howard Levi Fuller married Linda Moore in Paris, Tennessee in 1974. They have a daughter, Amanda Kathy Fuller, married Ronald Ladd in 1968. They have 3 children, Sherry,
You wrote that before
Sherry
Megan.
Marie, and Angie Leach, and Joshua Ronald. This record was expanded to include more of the different children's descendants, but as of now I've been tracing the name of Levi through family history to determine who should have this medal. 6 grandchildren, 6 generations. I'm trying to get ahead of myself. 6 generations with Levi, Leach,
Leah.
lancing through them. Then
Her granddaughter's
Leah.
Leah.
Okay, Leah. Okay, I see. Where I stand, I look back and look ahead. I've talked with all the 6 generations. I've talked to all 6 generations today. I've decided to give the medal to the youngest Levi, which is Howard Levi Fuller, September '79. And that word's messed up there. It said the first Levi used to take his grandson Levi into the cab of the train and let him pull the whistle as a small boy in Columbus, Kentucky, about '01 or '02, and then that's the end of that. And then you signed it down there.
Is that Howard Levi, and Linda had one child? You wrote that before Megan was born then.
I like it so.
She's the only grandchild that's not on there, so
Oh.
she's the youngest. No, Dwayne's children aren't on there either.
I had Emily was